2, 3, 4. Who's that at the door? Good afternoon, boys and girls. Welcome to another one of these. We're joined by our man Tony, who, thanks to the Archbishop of Canterbury, is back off his deathbed. Chris B, who has been scowling constantly since the full-time whistle rang out at Villa Park. I didn't end up going in the end because my house move happened and I decided to start packing boxes, which you can see on their stage left or right, depending on how this comes out. So here we are again once more in the playground of the broken-hearted. Welcome to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. The Villa game was very, very, very tough viewing for me. It picked up when we came out at half time. So clearly Ange had thrown a few flip-flops and pizza boxes. But it wasn't enough. Alas, to no avail. Great to see the goal. We'll discuss the game through the course of this. But gentlemen, where are we? I think that's the familiar refrain these days. Tony, I welcome you back. What are your thoughts on the state of the current malaise?
It's just the same old, isn't it? It's, you get a first half where Kinski seems to have developed clown hands. I think when he has the time to think about it, his brain's thinking far too much. He's not moving instinctively, but he did some really good saves, one-on-one saves, where it was just instinctive, which I thought was really good. But why does it take an entire half of literally running around like headless chickens, watching Villa just basically pass around us before he decides, I tell you what I'll do, I'll say something at half time, and then want to start having a go in the second half. It's all very well. And even then, when we started having a go, we were so open at the back that they could have scored 5 or 6, but we did quite well, or Kinski certainly did quite well to restrict them to 2.
I thought Joe Hart made an interesting point, and we'll cover the pundits in due course, because I thought the pundits actually did a lot of fan noise for us in the respect that, we had Defoe and Hart and co all basically saying, once you went through all the jigs and reels, that there was an absence of coaching going on. And it was in actual fact the way we were set up tactically. And then you say to yourself, well, if that's correct and that's correct, what on earth might be going on or not be going on in training? And it put a different spin on things. And in relation to Kinski, he made the point about that bungle for the first Villa goal as being kind of psychosomatic, that this is a footballer who didn't want the ball anywhere near him. And it wasn't so much of a blunder. It's not like, oh, he's really a bit rubbish. We gave him too much credit the first couple of games out. It was like there's something wrong there, which could be fixed internally, but that's not a sort of conventional football thing. Chris, what are your initial thoughts?
One thing I'd like to say from the outset is thank you to Stateside Footy 27 for the comments left after our last chat, which made me laugh louder than I've ever laughed before. Keep them going, fella. It was brilliant.
Just for anybody wondering, because the thing is arduous. It's several hundred words, and you always know you're in trouble when it's on YouTube and you see that sort of thing. This was a guy stateside, I suppose, whose comment began with something along the lines of,
"You guys are wildly entertaining, and no disrespect, you're out of your depth." I've been watching Ange since Melbourne days, and the exact same things you're saying were the exact same things Australian, Japanese, and Scottish fans were saying. We will continue to be wildly entertaining. We will continue to be disrespectful to Ange, and let me ruin the plot now. It's only going to get worse by the end of this show. But
yeah, I mean, the idea that something has happened in Melbourne with no due respect, or in fact with all due disrespect, and that we ought to take that as a life lesson, is just a very, very, very ambitious. So go on, Chris. Beyond that charming man,
beyond the Thunderdome, and the exact same things that Tone covered. It's like Groundhog Day with Tottenham, isn't it? Every time we get together to talk, we could just use the previous transcript and the previous notes, because things don't change. And we conceded after 57 seconds. But you looked at the fullbacks, Porro was so high that he was wandering down Las Ramblas about to get himself a tapas and a few beers. He wasn't even on the same European postcode as the football.
He was so
Kinsey,
high. He was so
yeah.
high. Basuma gave him a
Well,
thumbs up and a wink and said, "I can get that gear for you every weekend, mate."
yeah, and yeah, again, Tony hit the nail on the head. Kinsey made an error for the goal, but he atoned for that, and without him, it could have been 5 or 6 easily. But the thing that really got to me was we got tanked in our previous game in the semi-final of the Cup by Liverpool. There was a requirement to come back and make a statement. We didn't. It was like a whoopee cushion emitting a small farting noise. There was nothing manly about that. No answering our critics. If anything, we've morphed into what we know we are, and that's a meek, mild, pathetic club who are well versed in failure.
I've got the thing that I've kind of Darth Vader come through you loud and clear. I've got a thing, a big chunk of text, which takes a tactical overview of Spurs, and it's very in depth. It's been written by some stato on X, and I'll be using that to make a case in the next Substack when this goes out, or will accompany this tape. But the point that was made was that by this guy, and sight unseen, I think we're all of a mind, and many other fans are. What did we make of? I mean, Angelos, I thought at one point, all jokes about the coughing and everything to one side, I thought his voice went and he was about to burst into tears, or just shout, "I don't want to be here anymore." It was very, very this sort of emotive cry and husk in his throat. But he went through the list of the injured players, this week's injured players, because it's been constantly around the 10, 12 mark for the last 2 months or whatever, but made no mention of where those players may have come from. It was like at a tennis match, describing the rain that was stopping play. Now, when you're at a tennis match, you're a cricket match, you have no control over the weather. But at a football club, you and your physios, of which there are legion, have lots of control. And we've got a large quantity of very similar injuries. This isn't an array of different stuff. There isn't a sprain, a boom, 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 boom. These are all muscle-related injuries, which you could suggest had come off the back of the same kind of enforced labours. And Spurs, as I say, if you look at all the data, there's evidence to support the argument that these players have been, I wouldn't say recklessly treated, but they've not been treated with the due care and attention that perhaps a Premier League outfit might. And we're not the only people to have had injuries. We've played other people recently who had like 8 people missing from their squad. This isn't a unique thing. And I think sometimes with Tottenham fans, it's slightly hesitant to look outside the goldfish bowl of our existence and our relationship with this organisation. So what did you make of the business, either of you, in respect of the injuries that he sort of rattled them off, and it was they were all force majeure, all acts of God?
Football's a professional sport, and injuries are part of that sport. This morning, I was listening to Richie Wellens, the Leyton Orient manager, talking about their performance and result against Man City at the weekend. He said, yeah, what a lot of people don't realise is we had 4 or 5 of our starting 11 out. Both our wingers were injured, but I wasn't going to mention it. I wasn't going to grumble about it. I was just going to get on with it. Yet we now seem to be trying to use it as the excuse to detract the press and the world's media around his own insecurities and vulnerabilities and weaknesses for the tripe that he continually serves up.
I'd be interested to know who was in the press room last night, because I mean, but even if you got the older characters in, and I'm thinking of some of those sort of faithful retainers, like, for example, Moose from Talk Sports, No Spring Chicken, the guy that normally wheels in, who had the famous incident with the female sex toy all those years ago on Sky Sports. And why won't somebody say to him, do you feel that there is any in-house responsibility? Even if they don't want to say anything to him directly, are you not prepared to put your hand up that you're out of your depth at this level, and directly challenge him, but certainly challenge him kind of indirectly and say, do you not feel there is an in-house culpability for the state of the squad? Because you can shout at the physios all you want, but they're not the ones directing. It's like going to the car shop. You can shout at them, come on, get the bonnet fixed, get the fixed, but they're not the ones driving it. And it's Postecoglou that's driving these players, and he's driving them all into brick walls.
Well, yesterday, and I've noticed it in the last couple of games, in the Liverpool game as well. Archie Gray is now starting to look broken, and he's got so much credit in the bank. He really has, with everything he's done since since it's all been going on. Yesterday in particular, he's now beginning to look like, I don't know how much more I can take of this. He's trying his best, and he's just, everybody else around him is falling apart. And him and a couple of others are the only ones who've been giving their everything to the team. And even he now is just looking like, I don't think I've got much belief or faith left in what's going on. It was just horrible. Some of the expression on his face was quite. There's someone so young who deserves, and this is not a moan at him, because he deserves every bit of credit we can give him, because he's been in there. But even he has now got to a stage where when is this shit going to end?
I don't think it's a moan at all. I think it's an observation. I think you've observed what's happening to the guy, and I think I totally agree with you. And I think that he is he's very young, and it's very young to be a perpetual firefighter. And that's a terrible phrase, because I think all of us have worked in the real world, we're grown-ups, and when people say, "Oh, I've been fighting fires," and I say, "Yeah," and you've been throwing buckets of petrol over most of them. It tends to be the sort of area of self-inflicted criminality, if you like. But I just see this kid every single bloody game he plays. He's run ragged, left, right, halfway up the pitch, down the pitch, putting in loads of hours, loads of footsteps. But he's largely unsupported. And as you say, there, you have Pedro Porro. He's gone down the bloody shops when you need him.
But yesterday was crying out for Archie Gray to play in his preferred position of central defensive midfield, as the middle of the park was wider open than Bonnie Blue's legs, and people were running through us with ease. And be that the first guy or the 100th guy. We had nothing in the middle, and we were just getting overrun. And you would think, we can all see it. Clearly, everybody in the stadium could see it. What was he and his coaching team seeing? Because anybody would say, "Look, you've got to stop this. We're wide open. Where's the defensive measure?"
I think what Angie's certainly what Ange could see. I don't know about his coaching team. They can see the back of his head because he doesn't move. And he provides restricted viewing for all of his elite team in the technical area. But what I have really noticed is that the guys that gave us energy, and there was a little bit more oomph, should we say, than delivery. But Jed Spence, why wasn't he brought in sooner?
100%. That's the question everybody's asking.
We've heard mumbles. Now, I don't think he's a finished article. I'm not suggesting he is, but I am saying, why wasn't he brought in sooner? Because he's a nice, fresh pair of legs. He clearly cares a lot. And that's something I wouldn't have said about Jed before. I thought he was a little bit sort of Jed-centric. But he's shown with an awful lot of his mannerisms and his talking and this, that, and the other, that he's a guy worth paying attention to, and a guy worth having inside the tent, whizzing out of it, to use that industrial sort of imagery. And the idea that he was frozen out, and again, Reguilon, who is even further down the footballing food chain for me, I would have had involved in the first team setup since the beginning of when we had these issues with staff absences, which, as you all know, and many other people know, I think were mostly self-inflicted. But you've got Jed Spence and you've got Bergvall, who, again, they're not really delivering 100%, but they're giving us 85, 90% worth of effort. And I just think that the squad management, and that's an actual phrase, that's an actual thing that Angie's been doing, has been woefully poor. And again, we come back to that word again. It's the N word that nobody likes. It's naive.
You know who would have improved the team significantly yesterday and last week against Liverpool? Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. That was a man who could have sat in front of the back four, sweeping up and just doing the nasty stuff. At the
trouble is though that
person.
No, and we're in a minority, because if you mention PEH's name anywhere, all of the infantile lunatic fringe of forward-thinking Angelistas, the Ange sexuals, they were just so keen to get this guy out of the way so the happy rebuild bus could come along and you could cheer on all these kids that aren't quite the real deal yet, but with no support. This is like a trapeze artist who is pretty good, turning heads, but have only been in the job a week and they're already saying, take the net out of the way. I want to get the big money from the TV companies, move the safety net out of the way. And no circus owner in their right mind would watch them plummet into the floor. And that's what Ange's done. So he's injured all of his, or most of, or the bulk of his regulars, got rid of, loaned out characters like Pierre, and we don't have any core spine. And I'll just throw this in while I remember it, or I'll forget it and I won't mention it. James Maddison is not listed, and I know this isn't everything, but it's something, isn't listed on PremierLeagueInjuries.com, which is the Bible for this, that, and the other, based out of quotes. So anything that Andrew's come out with or anybody else has said is unsubstantiated mumbling. But there's no specific thing. If he says, "Oh, he's a bit tired, mate," I think there's an issue there. I'm not looking for an issue. I think Angie's handing them out freely.
You just described Angie's raison d'etre, unsubstantiated mumbling. I think that's what he basically does best, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is what we got. I mean, last night after the game, I mean, I knew it wasn't going to be satisfying, but I sat around so I could put the presser out, and I just thought to myself, "Wow, you are getting such an easy ride." You're just, like I say, go back to this thing. It's like the commentator on the cricket match or the tennis match describing rain, which one would hope, one would suspect wouldn't be such of a menace in the summer months, but it is. It's like something that just happened that you had no control over. And the idea that he's counting them all out on his fingers, and I'm thinking, do you know, if I were you, I wouldn't go down that route at all. We all know you're missing a ton of players.
And you know, another bugbear with yesterday, which we both joked about real time, was how he took Mikey Moore off to bring on Basuma, the saviour. I joked before the game. I said, what one of the three is it going to be? Is it going to be Papasar? Is it going to be Bentancur or Basuma? And which of the three will be on the bench? Either way you pitch it, none of them are capable midfielders. They're all very average and offer you championship style play. So we're chasing a goal after the 57th second of the game.
And he takes off a guy who could bring a spark of creativity,
tell you what,
run past his man.
How about taking off Son, as he was a liability? And people have got to call out Son for what he is. He's not a captain. He's shown no leadership. Yes, he's been good once upon a time, but old age catches up with us all. And he was an absolute shower of shit yesterday. He didn't do anything to influence that game.
He's been systematically disappointing for over a season. I know we had this business where he needed an operation on his whatever it was and blah, blah, blah. And they lied to us about that. And that just sums it all up. They also lied to us when they made him captain. It was a political move. It wasn't meant to be. They should have arguably made... as I say, you're not allowed to even mention Pierre because he's a dinosaur. That's the favorite phrase. And of course, the reason they use this language is because they're all in their bloody 20s. They don't have sex. They've never traveled anywhere. And I'm not talking about your fortnight in Marbella. I'm talking about having a worldview that's credible. So they call a guy who is I mean, this was a footballer that Jose Mourinho, who I don't care if you didn't like him, whose CV eclipses anything you've seen in your life, said, this guy is an absolute nuisance. He spends all day asking me questions. He's going to be a great manager or a great coach. And I paraphrase his words, but basically that this is a guy who's ready to go at some point. But we don't want him. We don't want him. And we don't have a captain. And you could arguably say that James Maddison, whatever you may think of him, might make a better captain because he wants it so much. I made the disrespectful remarks about the state of his attire and his interior fit on his player box, but it does show that he cares and his heart's in the deal. You know, it's not like he wouldn't mind going back to Leicester next week. He wants to play for Spurs. He wants it to be a big thing in his life. Why isn't he captain? You know, you need a guy in the middle of the park who's got a little bit of oomph, a bit of gravitas, and we don't have that. And instead, as you say, they bring on Basuma.
Well, you're talking about caring and you talk about strategy. And this is something that's overwhelming all the way through the club.
Sorry, I apologise.
Any form of strategy appears to be completely and utterly missing. You look at the transfer strategy during the window. We got desperate. We weren't looking at Kinski until this July. They didn't think he was ready till July. The panic set in, and they thought we better get somebody. So they didn't trust Austin. Yet Austin had done nothing wrong to have any form of mistrust placed in him. He'd done exactly what was asked of him, and he had a couple of decent games. You then look at the going backwards and forwards with Tell. And plucking someone from league obscurity. Danso, to be fair, doesn't look a bad player, just not right now. He's not oven ready. We need, that famous quote, we need an oven ready player. We need someone who's up for the battle now, who understands it now. But then you look at Aston Villa's activity in the transfer window, and then you look at Marlon, Rashford. Now, come on, regardless of whether Rashford's a bit of a dick or what have you, there's a player there. We all know what he can do when he's on it. So why that was a free punt. Anybody could have had him for nothing. And then you've also got Asensio. These are players that have played at really, really high levels.
Actually, Rashford deserves a round of applause yesterday because our substitutes bench was so young that he probably provided most of them school dinners.
But I thought it was interesting when they spoke to the two young guys at Villa after the game, who looked like the sort of guy that, and I'm going to call it as I say it, looked like the sort of photo fit characters that you might see on a string of burglaries across the West Midlands. And they spoke well, and they spoke in a balanced fashion, and they came across as being honest, hard, salt of the earth grafters. And I just thought that was immensely refreshing. Perhaps I'm thinking of our guys that were sat on the bench who were injured the other day, all wearing their gangster rap Louis Vuitton hats and dungarees, who don't strike me as being any good at all. Just mention briefly Dean Austin, whose name mentioned there, he'd been sidelined for
I don't say Dean Austin, Brandon Austin.
Brandon Austin, sorry, forgive me. He's actually another guy who needs to move in order to perpetuate his career, because clearly he's been eclipsed by this new guy Kinski, and as we know, has been eclipsed by that daft Italian. But my real thing with the staffing, against the Villa, where was Dane Scarlett? I mean, if ever there was a great, instead of us moaning, and we're entitled to do what we want, and that's according to Ange himself. I mean, instead of moaning about why didn't they change Sonny out for somebody? Oh, I think we've got somebody new here. Hang on, hey, there we go. Welcome to Pete. But why wasn't Scarlett involved in that starting 11? It should have been as obvious as the nose on your face that Sonny was not contributing anything to that game. And it's not the first time. And the idea that, I mean, every time he went for an opportunity or a ball or was involved in something insightful, he let everybody down. But Scarlett, again, I know Ange comes out with this business that he doesn't want to set fire to these youngsters' careers. Well, what do you want to do? Do you want to set fire to your own career? I mean, I don't think anybody realistically think Ange is going to be here long term, and I include Ange in that. So what the hell is with that? And I would have loved to seen Scarlett given a go, and I just don't understand it. I just don't understand.
Not even on the bench, though, mate. Not even on the bench, though. So he's not even on the bloody bench.
Well, again, he's not on physioroom.com, and neither is James Maddison. And I think that Ange gets the ache with people, and he makes a decision in his head. No, I don't fancy him, mate. I'll let you know. I'm in charge. I'm the gaffer, and I think that's what you have to with him. You like it and you lump it. I think that's all that he offers.
Well, I think it was quite telling during the. I think going back to what you mentioned earlier about some of the punditry, like yesterday. First of all, Jermaine Defoe. Within 2 minutes, I thought, "There's our manager."
Yeah,
100%. Literally within 2 minutes, I thought, "My God, that guy just spread more sense in 2 minutes than Ange spread the entire time he's been at that bloody club." So get rid of him. I'd have Jermaine in tomorrow because at least he understands what goes on the football pitch.
I mean, if you got to bear in mind that Robbie Keane is currently out of work. In that respect, I mean, the idea that you've got a Rolodex or whatever, or you've got on your phone or whatever we have in the 21st century, you know, people you could get in charge, get in touch with, who could take charge, and you're saying, oh, it's a bit of a struggle. I don't think it is. Nobody would blink if you brought in Jermaine Defoe. In fact, it would turn the fan base. They would start renewing season tickets.
If you show some creativity and innovation, there's plenty of opportunities, and we do remain a massive football club. So you can't say, oh, no, we'll stick with Ange because who else is there?
But that's ridiculous. That's like saying, this like me saying to you, oh, my washing machine's broken, but what do you want me to do?
And I laughed this morning.
Mate, you've got a ton of money in the bank, and what do you want? Wear dirty clothes to work?
I laughed this morning with one of the Tom Alnett quotes, and it was from Ange. I think the group of players, once we get the rest of the group in, will be an outstanding team. Well, why have we not been outstanding since the defeat at Chelsea last season? Explain that one to me.
I have to disagree about Son not contributing. While he was playing, I think there was 2,000 Son 7 shirts sold in the club shop and another 50 Spurs Play subscription. So he's playing his part where it matters.
And he was available to apologise at the end.
Yeah.
When that was going to be needed. And we knew that after 57 seconds.
And start crying. So we know Kleenex will be the new sleep partner. Announce any.
But H, the parts you picked up on about the goalkeepers, we're unbalanced in that point of the squad. As we've brought in Kinski, we've got Vicario. Brandon Austin didn't put a foot wrong in any of the 3 appearances.
Zero foot wrong.
Then if you watch the Leyton Orient game at the weekend, you saw Josh Keeley in goal. You thought he's got something about him, played well, looked good. And then you've got Luca Gunter, who only last week, Johan Land did a press conference and named 4 people ready to contribute to the first team immediately next season. One of them's a goalkeeper. So you're then thinking, where's the buying strategy here?
I'm actually beginning to think that Johan Lang is actually dead, and they just rolled out a sort of a robot or something because
AI,
AI Johan, isn't it?
Well, actually, because
useless, isn't he? Good grief! I'll tell you what, I'll go and do his job for him. I'll take 10% of what he gets, and I'll still do better than that.
I think because of the tactics we employ at the moment, there might be a thing where we might have to use all 4 goalkeepers at the same time, and the only way we get any points.
Yeah, your back four made up of goalkeepers. That's brilliant. That'll be an innovative structure.
And we still won't keep a clean sheet.
Pete's redefining the phrase "rush keeper," rush goalie. Yeah, we're not hiding it anymore, lads. We're playing 3 in the back line and 1 between the sticks because that's how it is, mate. Unbelievable. So, but he's not been sacked, right? So, you know, and it's like I come to this sort of crossroads of every single show. And like I said to you a couple of months ago, because I'm a nasty piece of work, I did a piece on the Substack saying it's over. Because I could see, not because I'm a visionary, it's because I'm not 12 and I understand football. I could see this wasn't working. And despite the lengthy lamentations from that lunatic, saying that, you know, he was witnessed it with his own eyes in Melbourne or wherever the hell it was. These people are deranged. They should actually be being looked after in a secure medical. They shouldn't be exchanging with us because I mean, if your employer saw you churning this toss out online, they'd say he's in charge of our budget for the next quarter. Yeah, for the whole Middle East. Yeah, he's the guy. You would be sending him home with a blanket round him.
I think that snapshot of a survey that you shared in the WhatsApp group this morning, and something like 66% of those surveyed had faith and wanted to continue with Ange. You're thinking, are you blind? Football's not for you.
Yeah, I will add though.
This is now statistically the worst Tottenham manager ever. So you go keep faith until he takes us down to the Championship. Then put your hand up and say, actually, maybe he wasn't the right one for us.
It would be remiss of me not to draw attention to the fact that came from the BBC. And apart from anything else to do with the BBC, their Tottenham fan voice is a name. The name of the person I'll leave with you, and you can go and look at is Spursy XY. And if you know anything about chromosomes, that will tell you perhaps something that you might need to know in order to make your mind up. And I've never read such puerile, mid-range, beige, Catholic waffle about, just absolute nonsense. Well, we didn't win, and I hope we win again next week when we play. And that's what you're up against. And 66% or whatever of those brain cells would vote for keeping Ange on the premises. I mean, I keep on going on about the clothing because I used to work in the rag trade, but seeing him last night in that suit hanging off him, and it appears, because I think this is probably from that, I don't know if it's a Korean sponsor or an Italian sponsor, which has got a ton of and it's that jacket he's wearing was starting to bobble, where he's had a coat over the top of it, because the fabric, I mean, it may look like it's walked out the on the bus's wardrobe, but the reality is it's probably some insane cashmere which isn't designed to be worn apart from by Rod Stewart or something. His photograph taken it, but he looked like he'd slept in the damn thing, and it was weeping off the back of him. But he's not just
not only Fools and Horses when Del was trying to sell the overcoats and he got it, hold it on the back.
That's it. When he's dating that woman who's 40, and Uncle Albert says, "Well, I'd have to think about it."
Yeah, suits you perfect, Ahmed, my son. Might as well be going back, making it
even the punk rocker in the pub's got one.
Yeah, yeah.
But where do we go? When are they going to get rid of him? Because there's a gun, obviously, against Levy's head as far as the transfer market is concerned, because he's spoken to everybody. I was looking at a piece earlier today where I forget the name of the guy.
You sure he's not gone? They're just waiting for the Korean Stock Exchange to open to announce it there first.
Yeah,
normally the priority.
They're launching a new ice cream, and they're just making to do it in coincide.
First.
Is that similar to the Van der Vaart injury we're keeping quiet about and denying?
All day long, isn't it? All day long.
Mm. What are you saying? Yeah, he's screwed. The guy has got a build up. It's like he's got a bubble in his veins. There's a problem there that they can't fix tomorrow. And if Ange is allowed any, I wouldn't be surprised if there's been an intervention. If at Hotspur Way there's been a lawyer turn up with the agents and say, that's it, police line, do not cross. This guy has got to rest up and be absolutely fit again. And
got
then
the union involved.
Yeah, got HR in. Yeah, because they can't afford for this guy to get damaged anymore. I mean, this is a reality. This isn't just like, it's a pity that he's out of action. This is like you're talking about his career here, because you can't have that much injury to those ligaments. It just doesn't stack up. It's not something you can just walk off.
There was an interesting phone-in section when I was listening to the radio this morning, and a Villa fan rang in, said, just want to put it out there, I was sat behind the Tottenham bench yesterday, said all of the Tottenham substitutes were laughing and joking with each other. He said the Tottenham coaching staff didn't communicate with one another throughout the whole game. He said Ange just stood there in front of me with his hands in his pockets looking at the ground. He said as a home fan looking at the away opposition, he said it was all very worrying and it asks significant questions about your football club. And this
you pointed out during the game,
calling all of these things out. Yeah,
but you pointed out last night during the game, Chris, about the contrast between the two managers. And we had Unai Emery, who was leaping around, grabbing hold of people, shouting into their faces, chastising his bench, praising his bench, very animated. And then we had this guy who looked like he was killing time before the funeral parlour opened up,
hoping that a massive sinkhole would open up and suck his overweight ass into the outback.
And I'd just like to throw into the mix, I've been very unkind. I've fat shamed, I was called last week. Fat shamed Angelos. And I did look it up last night because somebody took me to task on the subset. If your waist is over 40 inches, and I mean your waist, not like where you do your trousers up desperately to stop them falling down just over your genitals. I mean your waist is over 40 inches. You are morbidly obese. That's not my opinion. That's a medical fact. So he is Australian and he's morbidly obese. Just in case anybody is in any doubt about this nasty haranguing he's getting. It's like saying that I'm tall and my eyesight isn't very good. Look,
Harry Hotspur MD.
It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim.
Only since you got that fast stick.
I don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, I'm moving address. You'll never find me. I speak 27 languages. I'll disappear into the night like that.
Sorry, Jason Bourne.
Yeah. Sorry. Ange speaks 27 languages, all of them bollocks.
Yeah.
What is it, Skippy?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fucked again, mate.
Oh dear. But again, let's go just in. The thing is that through all of this, we keep hearing stuff. He talks, but he says nothing. It's all vacuous, empty nonsense. And again, I'm going on about it, but it just struck me so quickly yesterday, within 2 minutes of Jermaine Defoe explaining about the gaps in defence, about how you can't be too wide, otherwise you're going to be. It was just like, my God, this is so obvious. And it takes somebody with just an ounce of common sense, an ounce of coaching nous, to turn around and say, I can see what's wrong. He's clearly not coaching them, and therefore, what you expect to happen will continue to happen.
You can see as well, and like I say, I'll have it on the Substack later, and I might do something on the original blog as well, just to like a an easy peeler edition for some of them out there. But there's evidence to back up a claim that Ange isn't running them through a system which is going to produce longevity and physical well-being, that he's burning through them. And I would suggest that once you've got that evidence in front of you and you believe it, because it's all that tedious stuff about paces taken while not in possession. I think it's PPDA is the statistical term. And once you add that stuff up and it's got gravitas, because it's a thing. It's not made up by some 15-year-old.
I've seen that. I've seen that
yeah.
chart. We're up there. Everyone else is in the middle. We're up there.
Yeah, it's like everybody else is within the M25, and we're in Kings Lynn. It's nuts. I mean, technically we're in the same kind of country, but we're so outlying that it's just absolutely nuts. But there's no accountability whatsoever, and all we're getting from the Ange in mob, and it's no surprise because they don't like thinking, they don't like questioning, they don't like anything that challenges the thing. And when you do corner them and just say, look, he hasn't won a game in God knows how long, and the football is terrible to watch and blah blah. Well, I'm supporting Tottenham. I'm a Tottenham fan, and I'm very happy doing that. That's what you hit. You hit this. Well, I haven't got anything else to say, but you're not going to denigrate my club. When in actual fact, what we're doing is pointing out that the chairman is a nitwit, and the fat lump that he's employed isn't any better. And when you're talking about Jermaine Defoe, do you know the reason that your face lights up when he's talking? Because he's a football man and he understands the game like we do. And you listen to the guff that's coming out of Angelos there sitting there. And last night, you watched the opening couple of minutes, if you can be bothered, of his press conference. He could have been reading that any game, anywhere. Very difficult to come to. That was
bizarre, the stuff he was coming out with there. And you listen to it and you think, have I been watching the same team? Like, is this going to be great and all that? Reminds me of when you American invaded Iraq, you had that bloke, Comical Ali.
Chemical Ali.
Great. We're holding them back. Then in the background, there's 10 tanks coming down the road.
There are no tanks. We are very successful, and this war will be over by Thursday.
He's legging it before the shell comes through the window. You know what I mean? The same thing. Like, what planet are you on?
Yeah, it's absolutely not. He's not describing the same reality that we're all living in. And it's absolutely obscene, really, if you consider the responsibility of his job. And last night, when he was coming out with all the twaddle about the injured players, which there's, like I say, there's no nobody coming at him and saying, yeah, but why are they injured? Why are all the injuries so similar? There's none of that going on. And he's saying, oh, yeah, it was a difficult place to come to. And of course, we were away from home. He sounds like a guy who's padding the word count in his article.
He forgets that football is a results-related business, and he's not getting the results. What was it? In his last 45 games, he's lost 21 of them or something. And you think, when's the penny going to drop with the apologists, the Ange lovers, and those people who clearly don't understand what football's about? It's about winning. It's about glory, things that we don't fulfill. But what excuse is there to continue with this dingo?
When you hear stock phrases like it's a difficult place to come, they're a good team, you immediately think, I bet Slot doesn't say that to his players. I bet he doesn't go, this is a difficult place. He says, right, lad, let's go out there and bloody beat them.
The mongrel is taking into the outback and putting down Skippy.
What is it, Skippy? But if you listen, but the thing is, boom. But if you listen to Slot speak, and I've learned over the years not to inflict the press conferences of other teams' managers on the fan base because they just don't watch them. But if you listen to him speak, wow, night and day, to quote Mr. B there,
smoking,
night and day. Slot, who English is a genuine second language, whereas this nitwit, English is what Aussies and Greeks speak. I know they also speak Greek, but he left Greek when he was like a fetus or whatever it was. Slot speaks so coherently and in such an assured manner about football. You just sit there and go, well, yeah, I'll give you 9 out of 10. I feel informed and, warmed by what you said if I was a Liverpool fan. But you listen to Ange and it's desperate. It really is desperate.
So what's our working?
Before they get on the Slot, Liverpool got knocked out of the cup. You listen to Slot again afterwards. He did not make a single excuse for that. He just turned around and said, we weren't good enough. Yeah. And he expected that team, with what he had out there, to beat. So quite right, he should have beaten Plymouth. They should have beaten Plymouth. They didn't. But he was not offering excuses. He accepted the defeat. He explained why he felt they were defeated.
Yep, absolutely.
Just got on with it.
He made it very clear, for those that didn't watch it, he made it very clear that he had given his guys, and forget what they were, whether the real first deal, first team starters, or they were youth players brought in or whatever. But he gave his guys an opportunity to make a point, and they failed. And he just said that they weren't good enough. He didn't go on about the length of the grass or a packed schedule or anything. This is what football managers do. They're responsible for managing their squad. And he just spoke in a very matter-of-fact manner. And what we get with Flangehead is an absolute waste of everybody's time. You may as well, like so many of you said, just play a tape from 6 months ago.
So what's the working theory then? Has Flangehead walked into the boardroom unannounced and caught Levy in a compromising position with Donna Cullen or something?
That's what I said.
Yeah, he's got to have something on him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's caught. Her legs are 9:15, and he's thought, all right, snap, I'll have that, and then that's my.
That can't be right. It's only 2:15.
That's my insurance policy.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
Mm.
I think the reality is that Levy knows, and everybody else knows, that the moment Daniel has to pick the phone up and get, oh, hello, it's Daniel here, and he'll be hearing dial tone. They've had it with him. They've heard it all before. They've all turned him down. And as I predicted, the next guy through the door, and there's going to have to be a next guy unless he wants to be in the Championship next season. The next guy going to be through the door is going to be even more of a liability, because this is going to be somebody from the list of which Ange was above. This guy is going to be further down the footballing food chain.
But that goes back to what we said initially. That's not a reason to keep him. We've got to be
absolutely
bold. We've got to do the right thing, and the right thing for the football club is to get rid of this cowboy sooner rather than later.
Well, this is the culture. This is the climate in which we live, where diversity, equity, and is tolerated. When in actual fact, what you want is a meritocracy. You want competency, and irrespective of anything else going on in the world, Ange is out of his depth at this level. He's proven it time after time after time. Every single competition. It doesn't matter whether we're playing the guys at the top of the table or we're playing guys from 3 divisions below us. He doesn't know what he's doing. It worked very well in Japan, which is not famed for its football, and it worked very well in Scotland, which, I know nasty things, is not famed for its football in the 21st century. And he has to go. And they've got a march. I can't remember when it is. It's the next home game. Where they're doing a march, you turn up, and I don't even understand how it works. Where does it start? Where does it end? Presumably it ends at the stadium. I don't know. But this is going to be another ragtag of people shouting Levy out into the sky in Haringey. You missed the damn boat. My sympathies and my thoughts are with you, but not in my name.
Before entering the stadium and paying £8 a pint to furnish his pockets.
Yeah, you were telling everybody to trust the process and all these other crap phrases. Careful what you wish for. That's one of the old favourites. They all translate to the same thing. Stop thinking, stop questioning, don't challenge anybody. Just lap it up and say, where can I get paid for my £8 pint in a plastic glass? And that was the time for you to raise your hand when you were creaming yourselves over this bizarre pornography of girders being waved around in the N17 skyline, which none of you stopped twice to think about. It was just, oh, that's really turning me on. And it's been a disaster. And who predicted it? I don't know. Who predicted it? And like I say, the next guy coming through the door is not going to be a massive improvement either. So don't hold your breath.
I think you can look at, you were talking about how long he's got. I think you can look at their trials to give you a bit of a hint and a tip, because basically we bought a keeper for 12 million. We bought a mid centre back for about 12 million. We've got a guy on loan with no option to buy for about 5 or 6 million. Yeah, let's go all out and back the manager, shall we? Because it's a long-term project. We're in this for the long haul. And I'm not being funny. Regardless of whether you think these players are good or not, they are not the players who are going to take us forward to the future. They're not going to make an impact now. And when you spend 30 million on 3 players, one of them who you're not even going to get when his loan period comes, you're not even going to have a sniff of buying him. Tells you everything you need to know about what they really think about this guy. But it's just for some reason, probably because of what you've said about the fact that he's probably burnt all these contacts, all these bridges are well and truly burnt. Yeah. That they've got no other option but to stick with this clown.
I can even see. Sorry, go on, Chris. Sorry.
Do you remember after one of the recent losses? I know it happens regularly, but we heard that I think it was Matt Law reported that Levy and Ange had had something like a 2 or 3 hour conversation, and his job wasn't at threat, but it depended on the next few results. Well,
my dead dog could have predicted that.
Yeah, the results haven't changed. So what was allegedly discussed in those 2 or 3 hours?
The problem
of the economy.
Sorry to, and I mean, I aim this at Matt Law and not you or anybody else. But the problem with all of these little morsels from the heavens above is that this is one incel talking to another. This isn't Levy telling you this. This isn't Donna Marie Cullen telling you this. This is some dweeb in the press office. And they've got a football team of them, by the way, because they're all on 12 grand or whatever they're on. And he's saying, oh, well, we've got every confidence in so-and-so and blah, blah, blah. And it's an absolute fairy tale. And this is the same source. And I keep going back to it because it's a great thing. It's there in print if you want to go and look for it, where Alistair Goldmy-Beer famously told us before they sacked, black bin bagged and threw him out the door as he was scribbling his farewell tearful note on the A board in the dressing room. They threw Pocher. Oh, Daniel's office is still across the way from Maurizio's, and in the mood. It's never been calmer. These people don't know anything. They don't know. I can look out my window and make a more accurate weather forecast by staring at the sky than these guys if they work for the Met Office. They're embarrassed.
When they discovered the Mary Celeste, I bet that was very calm.
Well, Matt Law as well. I mean, I don't want to pile on here, the poor guy, rest in peace, but he's had to lock his Twitter account because he's come out with a whole rake of nonsenses over the last few weeks, and fans have absolutely ripped through him because your real football fan isn't a 15-year-old incel.
And they weren't talking about him saying mate yesterday. There was an article about he gets taken the piss out of because he says mate and how it's wrong. I was like, what the fuck's that got to do with anything?
Well, this is it. Law wrote a fantastically boss-eyed piece suggesting that Unai Emery wouldn't be sniggering when the pylon inevitably got harsher for Ange, because if you do that, it's because you're a racist, because you look down your nose at Australians. But this is the world they want you to live in. They want you to live in a world where you don't hold any prejudices. Mm-hmm. Now, I hold loads of prejudices. I went with a few of them with you last week or the week before, and they're earned by lived experience. I know there are certain places in the world, if I go, I will be living in hell. That's not because I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan. It's because those places have always been hell.
Is that
and
Luton?
they just it's one of the might be one of the places might rhyme with Luton. I remember getting off a plane with my dad. We were moving in the army, so I was like a teenager and my brother was very small, and my dad saying, We're going to probably see some very interesting sights as we go out to the bus here. So just keep yourself focused on getting onto the bus. Because I've never been to anywhere like it in my life. Just for sale signs outside every house. It was like, I've got a tree outside my house. Yeah, and I've got a for sale sign. It was just bizarre. But yeah, Luton. It's like going to Luton. You don't need to tell me Luton isn't a bad place once you get to know it. It's a toilet.
I tell you who captured the mood for me yesterday was Ian Ladyman. Tottenham have gone from must watch to can't bear to watch. Summed it up in one headline.
But don't forget, Angie's interested in these.
No.
Angie's interested in all of these opinions, and to him, they're hired monkeys that are paid by the column inch to produce content, before, during, and after matches. And he's operating on a different level. He's operating on a different plane.
We've got to applaud Ange, though, as I never thought in my lifetime I'd see somebody who beat Christian Gross's record of officially being the worst Tottenham manager ever. So,
but that's it.
Takes undoing.
It's an incredible, because that was a seminal moment where he's wearing his sports jacket and holding up the tube ticket, and he has totally eclipsed it. But no, I thought. I mean, you're talking facts there, because it's not opinion. So you had to applaud him for getting into a suit. The absolute state of it. But he's got to go. I mean, the thing is, it's between a rock and a hard place, because on one hand we have not the threat, but the imminent arrival of a relegation scrap. A street fight to the death, to see who visits lots of new stadiums next term. And on the other hand, we've got this absolute waffle or mumbles about, well, I'm only in one cup now. I mean, can you imagine if you were campaigning on behalf of Ange? It was a political thing, and you said, "Well, we're still in the shout for the London mayor. We're still in for the Prime Minister of the UK, and we're still in for whatever it is, Miss Luton." And now you're down to Miss Luton, means you've got to put a thong on and flaunt your wares in order to secure your last chance saloon of achieving anything. It's grim.
Never underestimate Miss Luton. The blow and go's worth it every day of the week. But do you know the audacity last night?
The sheer diabolical libertarians of it.
The audacity of it last night was listening to former Tottenham pros and pundits saying, they stand a really good chance now of winning the Europa League. I was thinking, have you not been watching Tottenham for the last 18 games? Have you had your head under a rock or something?
Well,
what exactly have we done to demonstrate that belief?
The way to scythe through all of this nonsense is just to use a bookmaker. We played, every team we've played so far in the Europa League competition, the shortest price they've been is 6-1. One of them was 10-1. There are horses in the Grand National that don't finish the race, that are shorter than 10-1. So if you think we're suddenly going to go through to playing teams you've heard of that don't look like triple word scores in Scrabble, you're delusional. There's not a chance Spurs are going to win that competition. And I do understand that the bookies have them priced at whatever to win the competition. In some places, they're sort of first and second choice. But that doesn't stand up to any scrutiny.
We can win it because anyone's in it.
If we won it, we'd drop it. I mean, it's just laughable. It really is. Do we have any more? Because I think we're knocking on the hour mark. And I mean, I've got to be back at the methadone clinic.
I've got to do the school.
I was just looking at the next few fixtures. We got United on the 16th. We're at home to United on the 16th.
Oh, goody.
We're away to Ipswich on the 22nd.
Oh, goody.
And then we're at home to Man City on the 26th. Now, tell me we're going to get 5 points out of that fucking lot. No chance.
You tell me City won't hold a grudge.
Do not. But then again, of course, we're going to have all these magical players coming back by then, aren't we? They're going to suddenly, this fairy dust is going to be sprinkled upon the ground, and all these players will suddenly grow up, and Mickey van der Ven won't have hamstrings of porcelain anymore.
What's interesting is I think we've got a week off or something. He was saying last night for players to rest. My brain immediately went to, Yeah, one of them's going to get caught doing something really bloody stupid. It'll be in the paper. It'll be waving his under things at a hooker in a nightclub or something.
But,
something will go wrong.
My bet's Basuma.
Yeah, well, that's not even a bet, is it? I don't think the bookies will even open a book on that one, will they? Let's face it. But the thing is, would you blame them? They must be absolutely suffering from PTSD.
Chaps, I must go. Got to get the school running.
Nice to see you, mate. See you again soon.
Or is it post-traumatic anxiety disorder or whatever it is? PTAD, post-traumatic anxiety disorder, because it's ridiculous. They can't keep going through the same things they keep going through. You're broken. If you don't break them with injuries, you're going to mentally crush them.
And what yesterday said, Tony, is none of them knew what they were supposed to be doing. And they looked uncoached. There's not a single player in that team that's improved over the last 18 months. Everybody's gone backwards. And you think it's like Stockholm syndrome. They're in love with their captor and they've bonded with him, but they don't want to break free and realise themselves.
I would say Archie Gray is the only one, and Jed Spence we've talked about. Those two most certainly come out with a lot of credit, but you can only sustain that for a certain amount of time before even they get broken as well mentally.
But
they can only do so much.
What will snap them, in my opinion, is that a couple of, say, 2 or 3 guys will come back and they won't win. And then all that, the cavalry is coming, and then you see the cavalry get wiped out, by the first couple of Indian arrows that are fired over. And you think to yourself, hang on a minute, I've been waiting for this miraculous moment, and it's another false dawn.
He's got another problem as well, because a lot of the players he's been playing, he's had to play because he's got no choice because of all these injuries. But the point is, you then bring all these players back who supposedly are better than the ones you have basically been fighting in the trenches.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do then, eh? What are you going to do then?
But did you see Kulu yesterday? He looked like he'd spent the weekend at Chernobyl. He didn't look well at all, did he?
I picked up on that last week, and I said he looked like he'd been sleeping in his car, living on Haribo, or eating out of a bag of sugar. That's it. He's living on sugar, sleeping in the bag. He looks rough. I mean, we all get skin problems. It's part of show business. But this guy is a professional footballer. He's not a guy living in a bedsit. And he's all up here and across his nose and down. It doesn't look well at all.
They don't just need a sports psychologist at the moment, mate. They just need psychology full stop, don't they? Let's face it. We're just going to shit they're having to endeavour to put up with on a daily basis. Can you imagine coming into work and you go, right, mate, let's talk tactics. Oh, for fuck's sake.
The only tactics he's got that would be of any use at the moment is putting a tinfoil blanket around them. Yeah. Just as they recoup. But I just think we're witnessing. I mean, it's pretty horrific going,
an emotional crisis and a breakdown in front of the viewing public.
Well, like I said last night when he was talking, his voice went, and maybe I'm trying to be sympathetic. I've made jokes about his wife finding him swinging in the garage before today, so I don't have to reel it too far back, but I do have sympathy for the guy. And as I say, when his voice crooked last night, and he did the thing, and he was sort of snuffing because he was doing this again. It's like watching. It's horrible. It's like there's adverts for the RSPCA, and they say this dog was found, in a council flat, unattended for 6 months, and it's got mange and blah blah. And you look at Ange, and that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a neglected animal. So it's really not very good. So we're looking forward to.
He's an animal who's electing to drink and eat his own shit and piss.
And you've got a service department over the road. They're even putting hot meals out for you 3 times a day. I like it here, mate.
Both of you, just give me a very quick synopsis on how he's still there. What is keeping him in that job?
Levy can't go to the markets. Every time he phones somebody, he gets dial tone.
Yeah, sex tape. That's what I say.
I don't think it's that ambitious. I know he's got kids, but I find it very difficult to see Daniel involved sexually with anything.
I didn't say it was a sex tape with him. He would outsource it to somebody else.
Right. I think we're just about done. This is where we are, folks. We wish we had something more cheery to say, but there's no point in trying to construct positives that don't really exist in the real world. Look at the win rate, look at the table, and it tells you everything. That's it for now. Good luck. Keep it on them. Like an atom bomb. Right. Well